Today's guest is an emotional, intuitive, trans medium, life transformational coach. Say that 5 times fast.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about her is that she talks about how limited beliefs, mental programming, and even emotional, energetic traumas stop us from being our true, authentic selves. So I think she is going to do a lot of good for me. I'm going to learn a lot because I need some help with my own self-sabotage. My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
we both want to believe.
so we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something
Anything.
that will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the
Skeptic
Skeptic Metaphysicians. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you that on our website, we do have a members-only section exclusively reserved for listeners who join the community. The membership is always free and comes with a weekly newsletter that provides insight and reminders about our current and past episodes, along with suggested topics and shows that are companions to the topics we discuss on the show. Now, the best part about joining our community, membership includes access to the members-only section of the site that provides added benefits of discounts for products and or services from some of our past guests. So head on over to skepticmetaphysician.com and join our community right now so you don't miss out. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get on with the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Skeptic Metaphysician. Karen, I'm so glad that we are back here doing another episode.
I know, I am too. I just love doing this so much.
We do have a lot of fun, don't we?
Yes.
I think we have too much fun.
Probably.
We do. I think it's probably against the law to have as much fun as we're having. But today's an interesting topic because of my own personal history. Now, longtime listeners will know that I started the show when I had a little bit of a crisis on my own.
Mhm.
And it turns out that I learned a lot about myself through the whole COVID times, right? Where I learned that I have a habit of sabotaging myself
Mhm.
in a pretty hardcore way. Let me welcome to the show, Casey. Casey, thanks so much for coming on and talking to us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure. And I love like-minded and especially metaphysical. I mean, oh my gosh, that's like my favorite kind of topics to talk about.
Well, strap your seatbelts because we go all over the place.
You never know where our conversation will take us.
And that's the fun of it, right? Universe takes us where the universe wants to take us. And whatever message we're supposed to give on this episode, we are happy to do so. So,
I would like to know.
oh, yes.
I'm just butting right in.
Go
Will.
for it. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
So you have this wonderful title. Can you explain it to me? Because I have no idea what that means.
Wake up with KC. It's really
Mm.
simple.
I
It's
I think she
Oh,
meant the emotional, intuitive, trans medium, life
okay.
transformational coach.
Yes, that one. Although I have a rough time waking up too, so
An emotional, intuitive transmedium on the spiritual aspect and understanding is it's connected to being empathic. I
Mhm.
feel senses and energies with my intuition, and I channel highly evolved beings, ancient civilization beings that you can't see in your natural eye unless you have another gift that you could see beyond that in the invisible realm kind of thing, if that makes any
Okay.
sense.
Mhm.
You know, because I've heard growing up, I saw my grandmother who passed,
Mhm.
want to call them ghosts. They're just souls, just people are able to see them better than myself, but I feel them.
Okay.
Got it. Got it.
And
Okay.
it's mind blowing, but going through what I've experienced, I just finally said, okay, this is probably my purpose and mission and why I came, in order to help others.
Mhm.
And it's starting to make sense. It's like I'm on a constant transformational journey, constantly changing, better my mind, the way I think, the way I feel, and then recognizing history and science and spirituality is all connected.
Absolutely.
And we can learn so much of our history of, oh my God, I see history repeating itself, just different time frame. How do we stop repeating the cycle, the pattern? So I awaken people by what I study and research, and then I just educate and awaken them. And then on an individual basis, the limited beliefs, the mental programmings, the emotional energetic traumas. If you think about it, it's being a woman, okay, when you're
Mhm.
pregnant, whatever you're feeling and emotion and energy that you are creating from your own experience, guess what? The baby that you're carrying is experiencing the same thing.
Mhm.
Now, let me go deeper. You were in your mother's womb, your mother was in her womb, and let's go back in time. All that stuff what keeps carrying over, and you wonder why you're attracting certain things, experiencing certain things. You see where I'm going?
Yeah, so it's like a genetic energy.
Yes. It's not
Okay.
hereditary. It's just an emotional energetic trauma that's been passed down for generations. And once you
Okay.
discover and connect the dots to the root of what your issue is, boom, gone. Because then you
Oh,
having
wow.
God realization of, oh my God, now I know where this comes from. Okay, how do I change it?
So, and I guess that comes in line with like past life regression therapy and that kind of stuff, where you recognize a problem that you've had in a previous life that has manifested itself in this one. And by identifying it, it tends to clear it. Well, I'm here to tell you it didn't work for me.
Well, it's not that you identify it, but then it gives you an opportunity to, okay, it didn't work last time. What can I do to change it
Hmm.
to where I don't
Okay.
have to repeat it? It's not so much how you react. Well, if it didn't work out before, well, how did you react to it when it presented itself to you again? And then, okay, what can I do differently? Not
Okay.
react,
So
but respond in a better way. That's
So
more
there's hope for Will.
positive because then you change your mindset, you change the energy from your emotion, and then a different result.
well, then this gives me an opportunity to kind of clear something up with the audience. If you heard the past life regression session that I did with the unbelievable Leora Leone, we released that a few weeks ago. You heard some things that I was not able to connect the dots. So this gives me an opportunity to connect the dots for the audience and then ask you a question at the same time
Okay.
that pertains to what you were just talking about. In my past life regression, it turns out at one point in time, I had a family that I couldn't protect. I was the one constant, and everyone that was in my family had either died or been sold to slavery. I was unable to save them. Now, on this life, I have found here's where I'm connecting the dots for the audience. I have found that I'm an overprotective parent in a pretty massive way. Because,
So massive.
right. Well, but then it makes sense, right? Because now I have this genetic memory that says to me, I have to do everything I can to protect my daughter. There's no way I'm going to let anything happen to her this time around. And I wasn't aware of it until I went back to my past life regression and realized it. And now I've connected those dots. Now, when I said it didn't work for me, I've connected the dots, but I find myself still just as overprotective as I was before my past life regression. So, what's the missing piece there?
You're holding on to guilt and
Oh,
grief. Like the
so
grief of not being able to protect those that you love. You're actually that's the emotional energetic trauma.
oh boy.
That makes sense.
Well, how do it makes sense, but how do you
That's the
let go of
gift
that then?
from it. So it's like I'm speaking truth. When I hear truth, I feel it. So
So
you've
I'm
been
holding
holding
on.
on to that fear and that guilt is so overwhelming from that past life. And you carried it into this life. So all you got to do is just say, you know what? Thank you. I now realize that was then. This is now. And I release you. You no longer serve a purpose in this lifetime, in my lifetime now. but thank you, and just bless it.
Well, if you have not had a chance to listen to the past life regression episode, I urge you to go back and listen to it and then reach out to us and let me know if that resonates with you, with something that maybe you have gone through. I'll tell you, Casey, that really resonates with me in a very strong way. I do, when you go to therapy and you talking to a therapist and they say, "Oh, well, this is what you're going through," and like it clicks, and it feels like, yeah, that is the answer. It does feel right now that you're telling me what my answer is. It makes a lot of sense. So
I'm just
And that
speaking
might
to your
also
soul.
that might also be the reason for the self-sabotage. If you've had this guilt that you're carrying with you, you feel like you don't deserve, the life or whatever that you have, so you sabotage it.
I am getting chills right now.
There, there's the
Yeah.
See, we
truth.
should
You
just done this
nailed
podcast a
it.
while ago. You'd have been fixed.
Casey, where have you been all my life? For crying out loud, I needed your help. I needed, all the years and all the dollars I spent on therapy, and I could have just gone to you, for crying out loud.
Well,
But
because I connect neuroscience and the emotional energetic traumas from my own experience and my own spiritual awakening. Because I asked a question and started questioning everything. And it's ongoing. It never stops. And it's mind blowing. So I take a little bit and then I share it just like I did. What we just went through. Perfect example. That's what I do. I just look
Wow.
at things and feel things in a different perspective in order to help you heal so you can transform and become the better version of yourself. And you can live
So,
your best life now.
have you always had these gifts, or is it something that developed later and you've fine-tuned, or have you just always known?
I've I've had an inner knowing sense as a child, but I know like in my teens, I started having visions and dreams that like 3 days later, a week later, 2 weeks later, it happened in a similar way. So
Mhm.
that was like a little freaky. Then I started going through other transformations and I guess the awakening of seeing, feeling, and even speaking. And then it just keeps getting more like it went from I recognize a Native American language, and then I'm now learning to discern the masculine energy and the feminine energy. And my whole body just it you could see like, oh, she looks like a masculine kind of, or she looks like a woman, the way her posture is. And so I'm starting to recognize that. But if you ask me how to, to translate it, I haven't gotten to that part yet. Because when I
So what do I look
channel,
like?
it it's intense. It's like somebody taking a taser gun to me and just turning the volume based on the frequency and the vibrations that I deal with these beings. Some of them are celestial, angelic, highly evolved, like extraterrestrial, and then ancient. So it's wild and crazy and fascinating to me.
so you're just a conduit for all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
Is it on all the time, or do you invite it in? Do you take a minute and go, okay, I'm ready to take some questions now, or is it just constantly being bombarded at you?
It's well, when I have conversations with my higher self and my spirit guides are always around me. I have like 3 of them and I just start talking to them like I'm talking to my best friend and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on with this?" And I have to make a habit to bring a journal with me, but I get into this like intense conversation and I forget to grab a pad and I've learned like the yes and no questions. It's better. Sometimes I do hear some words or I'll get an image. I'm like, oh, okay. And then a lot of times I'm like, what in the world? What? I don't understand. What are you talking about? Wait, hold up. Kind of
Yeah,
thing. So
I
it's
feel like that would be my constant reality if I was you. I'd be saying that all the time. What are you talking? What? Nah, what?
See, now I would want to know, like, how do you know those are spirit guides? I would think I was just losing it if it was me. I would doubt myself. Yeah. I'm like, what? Oh no.
you we're all spiritual beings. We're sexual
Mhm.
beings inside of a human being. And from what I've learned, there is the connection, even from ancient times from Egypt, about the spiritual aspect and the sexual aspect in connecting inside a human being. So it's you learn based on who you are and recognizing things that, okay, this doesn't make sense, but it will later. I've learned to just trust
Okay.
and I'm protected. Like you have to have faith and believe, like, okay, I don't quite understand what I'm experiencing, but I know there's a reason and I'm just
Mhm.
going to trust. And you got to connect to that greater intelligence, that divine essence that you already have in you.
See, that's where I start falling down because that blind faith thing to me just doesn't work. I need something to say, tap me in the shoulder and go, "Hey, I'm your spirit guide." Right? I don't it's hard for me to just drop the can you prove it to me attitude and just accept, which is I understand why I haven't had these experiences and things like that like most people. I'm not open to them because I need that proof, right? That three-dimensional physical tangible proof. But
Let me ask you something. Well, do you see numbers like in pairs, 3 digits every now and then?
I can answer that.
all right. It sounds like someone's been stalking my Instagram. I do actually. I see for a long time, 1111 followed me everywhere, like everywhere, everywhere.
That is very significant because that's how they're trying to communicate with you. So when you start recognizing and then go do numerology, I've had experts on my show that study numerology and it goes back in ancient times as well. It's the way that they try to communicate and then they'll it's like they're nudging you. Pay attention to these numbers. And that's a baby step. So when you
I'm good with
start
baby steps.
so okay, so they've been trying to communicate with you with numbers. So start okay, when you see that number, whatever number it is that that's popping out at you, say, okay, I don't understand what you're trying to communicate with me, but I'll look into that and then, and then that it's a slow, gradual, like, okay, because they're on the other side going, when is he gonna get it? We're trying to go. And then when
Never.
you start like, okay, I 1111, and then you start researching, talk out loud because they'll hear you even in your thoughts when you're talking in your thoughts.
Mhm.
Say, okay, 1111, and then say, okay, I don't quite understand what you mean by this. I need more clarity.
Everyone knows that I'm a chicken shit. I make everyone knows I'm a chicken shit. So there is a you don't have to nod so enthusiastically, Karen.
Just
Um,
agreeing with you. I'm supporting
thank you.
what
You're
you say.
so supportive.
I am.
So yes, I'm a big chicken shit, and there was a time where the numbers I kept seeing was 1134. 1134, 1134, 1134. And one time I turned my head and suddenly realized, oh God, 1134 backwards spells out hell. So I promptly said, I am not ever going to pay attention to numbers again. So I don't know what were they trying
Okay.
to tell me something by giving me the
No,
hell number?
no.
The hell
So,
number.
okay. So here it is. You got 11, which is a master number because it goes from 11. 11 and 22 is master numbers. So 11 could go into 2. Then you got 3 and 4, which is 7. Add 2 and 7 you equals 9. Now, go and study what 11 master number is, what the 2 is, then 3 and 4, 7, then 9. Because what it is, it's 11, which is a master number, which is very significant and symbolic. Then you got 34. 2, 7, 9. 9 is a significant number. Like everyone's going through based on your birth date and this year, because every year changes. So does
Mhm.
your season and your numerology and what you can anticipate in the year of that year. Like mine is okay, 9/11/2022. It's 8 for me. So I'll go and look and study 8 and what it represents in numerology so I can one get knowledge and understanding and maybe insight of the seasons that I'm going through for this year.
Okay, so you're saying that we need to find a numerologist, which is something I've been trying to do for a long time, actually, and I've not found the right person to talk to yet. But I will find them, and I will get them on the show.
We're all
Mhm.
connected to numbers, even our biochemistry.
Okay, how is it possible that a number can affect? I guess this is a question we should ask the numerologist, but I'm curious because we're on a topic now. How can a number affect things in your life that have no bearing on numbers?
Maybe it just reflects them.
It's okay. We're all connected to the earth, the planet, the universe, and all of that. Now, they go in cycles too, how they orbit. 30 days for the moon, and the sun and whatnot. So, see where the numbers come in? And then you picked a certain day, month, and year to come into this earth. Even what time of day, AM, PM. See how numbers connect?
Hmm.
And you said something about 3, 6, and 9, and that's almost my birthday. My birthday is 7 3 6 9. And everybody knows my sign.
Ooh. But
Now,
it is, we're connected to everything, including numbers. You get
Okay.
insight, and then there is like positive and negatives, good and bad. There's some negative aspects with the numbers too, based on, you know, your name speaks volumes, in numbers with the pathogen. I can't even pronounce it right now. Oh my God. It's been a long day. But yeah, and it goes
Mm.
back in ancient history that they used that. I think it was back in the Roman times, if I'm not mistaken, that they did that with people's
so
names.
do you use all these things? I know you mentioned you were emotionally intuitive. Do you use numerology and past life regressions and things like that to be able to guide the people that come to you for guidance, or is it strictly more of a channeled information?
Well, right now, I've been coming out of the closet of what I do because it's when I channel and I have a small like group, inner circle group that knows me, that understands what I'm doing. And I have one person that now she could translate, but it comes in the best way I could describe it is like they're speaking too fast and me trying to get it all to translate. It's like they're up here, their frequency, and I'm here in this frequency, and trying to communicate. It's like the waves of a radio station trying to like fine tune it. That's what
Mhm.
it's like. So now I'm just like, okay, I have to be bold and start doing it. It's just I don't know when that I have a feeling I'm going to be doing it in some aspect of my show. I'm intuitively just, okay, just do this for now, but get ready. And I'm like, okay.
It is fascinating, incredibly fascinating. But what tools do you use currently? If it's not channeling, and I understand what you're saying, it sounds like it is a trance channel. Like you're not a conscious channel. You actually go into a
Trance.
trance
And
and
it's like
information
I
comes out.
step out, they step in, they speak their message. And there's
Right.
some healing that goes on from what I've experienced in helping other people, their chakras. They felt something move and shift in their chakras, or pain went away. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I did what I was supposed to do. And I just like, there you go. I sometimes when I do a reading, they will come in and give little messages. And then I use my tarot cards. And I have different ones. Like I have the Goddess Power Oracle, the Mystical Shaman Oracle, and the Star Seed Oracles. So it's just what I feel led to get to use, whatever I feel led to do. Energy
Mhm.
work, it's above doing Reiki because I could do it virtual and I could just feel, okay, well, I didn't have this pain over here on my right back shoulder. So, what is this stemming from? Does it belong to them and why? What happened? Like, I go through that. I become the researcher and investigator to get to the root so I could help them.
Interesting. In preparation for our interview, I did a little bit of research on you, and from what I uncovered, and I don't know how much you want to get into this, and we can certainly gloss over it, but you had some difficulties yourself, starting with childhood and going into adulthood,
Oh, yeah.
that put you on this path, right? So you're speaking from a position of personal experience that sparked your spiritual awakening, which now you're then utilizing to try to help others to spark theirs. Can you share with us what happened? At what point did that shift, that light switch come on and go, I've got to help other people?
To share with your audience, I even through childhood, I was bullied. I've been through every form of abuse from, being bullied, the emotional, mental, verbal. I've been sexually abused, financially abused, spiritually abused, all of that.
Well, I'm sorry
And
to hear that, first of all.
well, it's fine because you know why? I gained
It made
wisdom.
molded you into who you are now.
Well, it gave me the opportunity to experience it because if I didn't experience, I wouldn't know any better. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
So I don't blame, I don't judge. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't like that experience, so I don't want to experience that ever again. And then you gain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And then I could put myself in anybody's shoes that has experienced any of that kind of abuse. And I could show
Right.
compassion because
Now you
I
mentioned
understand where they're coming from. But now I could say, hey, you don't have to stay in that. The guilt, the shame, all of that. Been there, done
Mhm.
that, seen the movie, got the t-shirt, and burned it a couple of times.
Right. Now, you mentioned early on about having chosen the day and time that you were born and all that kind of stuff. There's a school of thought that says that we actually choose everything that happens to us as well. Do you subscribe to that thought process?
Well, when I was in my soul form and out in the universe, galaxy, whatever, in my soul form, and with the creator of all, the essence of that, we just had a conversation. I'm like, okay, what do we want to do now? Well, I want to experience this. I want to be this color. I want to have these parents and go through all this. Yeah, to a degree, I can understand that because
Okay.
we've been around thousands of years and there's so much more to experience. That's why we came here, is to experience life. And there's
So
no, honestly, it doesn't matter what gender, what race, what color. We're all gods and goddesses experiencing life, learning, growing, expanding.
to take it a step further, then some people would say that not only did you choose what you chose when you were in your soul form, but you specifically brought these experiences to you because there are things that you had to learn, you had to experience to get beyond in order to get you to the point where you could help others, to your point, because you've been there, done that, and burned a couple of them, along the way.
Hmm.
So i- that's why I'm asking if you subscribe to that thought process, because you went through some very difficult challenges, and you've come out on the other side, thankfully, but those are hard things to swallow. So why do we have to experience all this hardship in order to reach awakening? Why can't I just be like, hey, we're
Well,
just here to have fun?
well, I believe like a lot of us don't even realize about some of the limited beliefs, the mental programmings, and the emotional energetic traumas. Like when I started realizing some of that was because on in my family there was physical abuse in my ancestry. And then I attracted, like I'm not sure if I wanted to experience everything or was I that energy passed down to me for being an abusive. relationship because I wind up marrying two individuals, men that were very abusive.
Hmm.
And my second marriage, I got to the point where, is this all there is to life? Because if this is
Mhm.
it, I don't want to be here. And there was some religion aspect that I just did not resonate with. And I was like, be submissive to your husband. I'm like, well, wait a minute. What if he beats the shit out of me? What? I'm supposed to stay submissive? It did not sit well. It just did not feel
Mhm.
right or true. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm done with religion. And if there is an essence of a higher whatever in God, then you show me. The grass is greener on the other side, then I want to know. And
And
that's when my journey started. Like I started seeing things and recognizing things and like, oh my God, wait, what? Oh, that makes so much sense. I know it, kind of thing.
right. We talk about it so often about the spiritual rebirth is so any kind of birth is so messy, so difficult,
Mhm.
challenging, it's ugly, it's tough, but at the end of it all, it there is a huge payout.
Do you think it seems like most of our guests that we speak to talk about some sort of suffering that happened before they had this awakening. Do you think it always has to be around suffering, or
Not
couldn't it just be maybe a quest
necessarily.
to?
I don't, I think that it's just like the program and the belief, especially in that coming from the religious aspect. Oh, you know, the misconceptions about you're born a sinner is bullshit. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
not. And then that passes on down. You see what I'm saying? So it
Yeah.
it, it really messes up with your mind and expanding it and understanding. You get so consumed by all those beliefs and programmings.
Well, it's making a heck of a lot of sense to me, sadly.
Totally not even to do with what we're talking about now.
Oh,
And it's just a very kind of selfish question, but I'm just curious. You had said earlier that you can see people and you can see their energy, whether it's masculine or feminine, and women that have
I
more masculine or more
feel it.
feminine energy. Oh, you feel it. So I'm wondering if can you feel either like either more masculine or feminine from me?
When the
Not to put
spirits
you on the
are
spot.
around and they come in
Mhm.
and channel through me, that's
Mhm.
when I feel it.
Okay. Gotcha. So it's kind of up to them. It's not necessarily up to you to just look and decide.
Right.
Right.
It's like when I open up myself and I'm like, okay. And sometimes they'll get my attention and I'll get hit. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I'm looking around or I'm looking at the person. I'm like, oh, you have a message for them, don't you? And then I get a hit and I'm like, okay. So then I just open up hey, I have a message for you, but I'm not sure if you're going to understand it. But are you willing and open to receiving it, whatever it is? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm like, okay, here we go. Be ready. And then I just go through it. And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't understand the word you said, but I felt that, 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 that. And I'm like, well, there you go. You don't have to
Yeah.
understand. It just went to your spirit, your soul, and that's all that matters.
All right. Well, you had mentioned earlier that you have your own show, and I would be remiss if we didn't at least touch on it because we started very early on when you said "Wake Up with Casey," and people were in the audience going, "What is that? I thought she was something else." So, can you tell us about your show? What it's about? How can people find it? Things like that.
Well, I'm on every podcast. And this is what got me when the pandemic around October was going on in 2020. I felt like, okay, now it's time. And I'm like, okay, time for me to do what? At my show? What are we doing? And I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting to update my skills. And then boom, I started a podcast. I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. All right. And then it expanded in my second season. I believe I started the virtual aspect. So I have
Mhm.
both. And it is Wake Up with KC. Wake up to new concepts, new perspectives of what if everything that we were taught to believe was a lie? What if there's a misconception about who we are? So I'm getting ready to start my fourth season, March 7th, 2022, with a whole new look. Finally found my logo, got my website, everything, my opener for the virtual aspect of it that's connected to YouTube for right now. And I keep going. And I find like minded individuals and experts that understand how the misconception. I get people, I'm starting to look for people that are experts in ancient history, the ancient civilization, science, and even, more spirituality kind of concepts. And then I have people that, some are average and some are celebrities. And I just go through what, their transformation, even the history of our legend actors and actresses, what did they do to reinvent themselves? How are they doing? What are they doing now? What did they realize being in the industry? So I'm very like an open book when I talk to people. And I love talking to people and, find out what did you learn about this and how was this experience? And it's very insightful, transformational. It has all the aspects,
Mhm.
and getting to understand people better.
Karen knows that I am a podcast junkie. So I'm going to subscribe to your show because I'm really curious, especially when you talk about what if everything we've been told is not real and who we are is not really who we think we are, because that topic fascinates me. Well, then, Casey, if someone wanted to reach out to you to get some help or to just connect with you and have a conversation, what's the best way for someone to do that?
Wake up with KC, the letter K and the letter C at gmail.com.
All right. We're going to put that in the show notes so that if you want to connect to Casey, all you need to do is go to skepticmetaphysician.com, go to our episode page, go to Casey's episode, and you'll see all direct links directly on there. We're going to put your social media platforms on there, your website links on there, and your email address so that people can reach out to you. Casey, there's one thing, one final word of encouragement and wisdom you wanted to impart to our audience. What might that be?
The truth is inside you, within you, and let it be revealed.
See, now you are speaking my language, because if you hear the intro to the show, we are like Mulder and Scully, but we say, well, they keep saying the truth is out there. You're saying the truth is in here. And that
Yes.
is a perfect message. That's probably what we're trying to get out there more than anything else. So,
Mhm.
Casey, thank you so much. This has been really, truly wonderful experience talking to you. You are a fascinating person. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure and honored, and I'm truly grateful for this experience with you.
Well, the honor is ours. Well, that wraps it up for this episode of the Skeptic Metaphysicians. Listener, thank you for coming along on this journey of discovery with us again. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram under @Skeptic Metaphysician. As always, if you know someone that would benefit from hearing the messages we've shared on this show or any of our others, I hope you'll consider sharing us with that person. It will help grow the show and may just help someone else come to terms with the fact that we're so much more than just this three-dimensional body that we inhabit. Listening to this episode on the radio and miss anything? Not to worry. All of our shows, including this one, can be found on our site, skepticmetaphysician.com. Don't forget that you can become a member of the Skeptic Metaphysician community for free there and enjoy the added benefits of discounts for services from some of our past guests, as well as the chance to never miss a show or an announcement immediately once it's been published. We hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we have. That's all for now. We'll see you on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysicians. Until then, take care.